Hello, I'm Chrissy Seaton. Depression is a very debilitating disorder, and some people suffer this disorder throughout their lifetime, and it can have a debilitating effect on not only the sufferer but also those around them, their family, loved ones, friends, and of course it impacts upon their work as well. In any form, depression is an unwanted test or event in our life. Most of us, at some point throughout our life, we have experienced a mild, infrequent episode of a depressive mood, and very often, as quickly as it comes upon us, it leaves us. And that's perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with that, and probably if you're very lucky, you might only experience it perhaps in particularly sad times, the death of a loved one, etc. And it does dissipate with time and may or may not require some intervention. But we've all had that moment in time where it's sort of, I feel depressed today. Oh, gee. And you just know by the signs your get up and go is just not going to get up and go for you on the day. As I said, others at the other end of the scale where it is severe, if that is undiagnosed and isn't appropriately treated, of course, it has disastrous consequences. And I'm sure we've all known of someone that this has happened to. So it's not a disorder that should be taken lightly by any stretch of imagination. And certainly in most countries, there are wonderful support groups and organisations available to help people who do suffer this on a regular, frequent, debilitating stage in their life. So, how do Noahides deal with the test of depression? Well, there are, from those fleeting, infrequent episodes, we sometimes have some episodes in between a little bit. They're not particularly debilitating, but they certainly may interrupt our life in some way and because of some reason. Now, before I continue with this video, I do just want to make a point and stress it very clearly here. So, those suffering from chronic, clinically diagnosed depressive disorders, now that means that these people are obviously on medication and certainly they are being monitored by their physician and their psychiatrist. And so this group of people with this diagnosed depressive disorder are not subject to the following points that I'm going to raise or the remainder of the information in this video. So I want to make that perfectly clear. When we talk about depression in relation to Noahides and their families, there are 6 points that I think are worth considering. And also, I would like to point out that I am using the reference book called 7 Gates of Righteous Knowledge. This is a brilliant little book, and it's written by Rabbi Moshe Weiner and Rabbi Dr. Michael Schulman. And I recommend you put this on your bookshelf. It's easy to read and it has marvellous references for all manner of things. But today I've chosen to look at the 6th gate of righteous knowledge, which is about why God tests people at times. So continuing on, there are 6 points that I believe we should consider when it comes to how depression or mood episodes happen in a Noahide's life. So I'm addressing someone here who has obviously a relationship with God. So before anyone gets excited and starts messaging or commenting that I'm accusing me of malpractice or something, please save your breath, because I'm not addressing those people. I'm addressing Noahides right now. So starting with the first of these 6 points, I say you need to pinpoint the source of that depression. And by that I mean, where do you think it's coming from? Sit down and sort of examine what you've been doing in the lead up to this depressive mood that you're in now. Also, you could ask yourself, is the cause of this an emotional thing, or is it a spiritual thing? Now, and that will help you when we progress through with the next points. Now, the second point is that we must also acknowledge that everything comes from God, and everything that comes from God, no matter how it's presented, is for our own good. And sometimes that is often hidden in the first instance. So it takes some time for us to understand what this is. Number 3, depression is a tool that's used by the evil inclination, which of course we all have. Another name for that depressive tool is called the Sahara. And that evil inclination, it actually overrides our logical thought process. It's a deceiver. It subjugates us, and that creates a problem. We have to really make a conscious effort to overcome whatever the test is that is coming our way. So we need to understand that this test has to be examined in terms of the previous points that I've brought up. Number 4, God does not test us beyond our ability. So when he tests us, he knows that we have the intelligence and the ability to override this. So always be assured and recognise that you do have this ability. And what it does, it allows you to recognise, to rise up and repair our ways and close that gap between ourselves and God, which is quite possibly existing at this time when you're in that state. Number 5, good old worldly distractions. And in lots of ways, they resemble idolatry, or they can become idolatrous in nature. When we become so absorbed in the happenings of the day, the material world, then that also blocks that pathway between us and our loving Father. So we need to, and of course that widens that gap also between our relationship. It just gets wider and wider. So we then move on to number 6. And of course, tests awaken us. That's why we get them. That's why God gives us these tests. So we're to view them in a positive way, and with hope in our heart, and a degree of gladness that things are going to get better. It's not the end, but view it as a beginning, a renewal of your relationship, or an improved relationship between yourself and God. So look at it from that point of view. That's very important. And something else that I think we should think about is that depression actually reared its head in Genesis. And it's Genesis 4 verses 4 to 6. I'll just double check. Yes, Genesis 4 verses 4 to 6. And what happened was, I'll read the verses to you. This involves Cain. So beginning at verse 4, and as for Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and from their choicest. Hashem turned to Abel and to his offerings. But to Cain and to his offerings he did not turn. This annoyed Cain exceedingly, and his countenance fell. I'll just repeat that. And his countenance fell. And Hashem said to Cain, why are you annoyed? And why has your countenance fallen? What do you think that means? His countenance had fallen. Isn't that what happens, or how people appear, or we appear when we're a little bit depressed? You know, we're a little bit crestfallen, but I'm sure it affected Cain much more severely in that, because the Yetzer Hara continued its journey to subjugate. And we all know what happened. Cain murdered Abel. So depression is something that we should not embrace. When it does come into our lives, and again, I emphasise I'm not referring to people who have a diagnosis and are on medication and monitoring, but when we get that fleeting feeling of, oh gee, you know, we need to quickly saddle ourselves up, so to speak, and say, look, what's causing this? What's been happening in the last few days? What have I been overlooking, or what have I been spending too much time on that's not important? And, you know, a little trick I often say, look, you know, get away from me, Yetzer Hara. You're not welcome. You're not welcome here. I know your tricks. I know what you're up to. And I think we have to actually bridle that a little bit, because the longer that you allow the Yetzer Hara to play havoc in your life, the worse things are going to be. Not only in your emotional state, your feelings, depression, but it leads to other things. It leads to other things. So just remember how it affected Cain. Thank you all for watching this video, and I do hope it's been of some help. And please remember, if you think you have any depressive type of disorder or episode, it's most important that you speak with your physician and take the appropriate information and advice they give you, and be well. Be well. There's plenty of assistance available in all countries, I know that. So it is something that must be treated when it's overtaking your life. I'm not referring to just a fleeting moment of being a bit crestfallen, but when you know that it's a problem, it's starting to affect you and those around you and your work, you really do need to get professional advice and do it swiftly. I would just like to remind everyone, please subscribe to my channel and press the subscribe button, bell to be alerted. And when there's a new video, click the like button, make a comment. Reminding you all again that we have a Noahide conference in September this year in Australia. I will keep you up to date as more information becomes available. And on my website, My Noahide Family, there is my email address. If you would like to email me and request I send you information, please do so. And just remember, keep renewing your relationship with God. Don't let something like depression create a gap. It's not good for you, and Hashem does not want that at all. So please take care, and God bless.